Next question that came in, a viewer would like us to discuss pastoral ordination.
Yeah.
What is the biblical basis for it? Who has the authority to do it, etc.? Can you give us some thoughts on that topic?
Sure. The biblical pattern of ordination is the congregation of God's people elect or select the person to be ordained, and then the established existing leadership lays hands on the person to be ordained. So the selection is done by the people. The act of government to set this person aside is done by the established leadership. And the reason this is necessary is that it's the same argument for church membership that you have in Hebrews 13. In Hebrews 13:7 and Hebrews 13:17, the leaders of the church have to give an account of the people under their charge. And it says the people under their charge have to obey the leadership. Well, in order to obey the leadership, you have to know who they are. You can't have a guy walk up to you on the street and say, "I'm your pastor, and you've got to do what I say." Well, I don't know that you're my pastor. There's got to be an orderly process by which someone becomes an elder or a pastor, so the people know those that they have to honor and respect and follow. And then there should be church membership on the other side, because the elders have to know who they're responsible to give an accounting for. If you go to your accountant to do your taxes and you ask him to give an account and he says, "Okay, let me ballpark this." Well, you don't want your accountant to ballpark it. You want him to be good at decimals, and you want him to be good at keeping an account. That's what an accounting is. So that means that an established church membership is necessary, and a roster of names on the elder board is necessary. And the governmental action for setting someone aside from the congregation to someone who should be given a vote on the session is called ordination. So ordination is performed by the existing body, and the selection is made by the congregation.
So how does that process start then if, Joe in Modesto decides he'd like to start a church in his own home?
The Joe in Modesto church, the first church of Joe in Modesto.
Maybe the second.
So one of the things that I'm following Peter Leithart's article here on Hebrews 10. I think the name of the article is "The Womb of the World." It's and I think that's a very apt insight. I'm following Leithart and John Murray, where the question, what's behind your question, is apostolic succession. Do we need to be ordained by someone who's ordained by someone who's ordained by someone, going back to the Apostle Peter, going back to the Apostle Paul? Does there have to be an unbroken chain of ordination, sort of like an electrical current? And I don't see the New Testament teaching us that pattern at all. It certainly doesn't require it of us. It doesn't say, whatever you do, guard the chain, guard the chain. There's a lot more in the New Testament about baptism. So I believe in a baptismal succession, so that John Murray argues that any group of baptized people washed up on a desert island has the authority given them by the Spirit, that because they're baptized people gathered in His name, they have the authority to generate their own leadership from their own midst. And I think that that's right, and I would argue for the authority coming from baptismal succession, not an act of government where it's ordination succession.